Hello students, welcome back. So today's video I want to start with a question. Have you ever had one of those days where everything is just going wrong? You forgot to pack your assignment, you forgot the homework, you spilled your coffee, you missed your school bus, and basically just by the beginning of the day, you are done. And most people think that to get over this, you need like a week-long vacation or you need like a big break to get over these feelings. But Robert Frost, on the other hand, he argues that all you need to fix your mood is a crow, a hemlock tree, and barely 2 to 3 seconds of your time. And how does he do that? Is he writes this poem called Dust of Snow, and we'll read this poem today, and you'll see that how within a few seconds, within a few minutes of reading this poem, you will simply gain a new outlook in your life. You'll gain a new perspective of the way you look at things, the way you perceive things. So let's just jump right in. So let's start this short poem. The way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. So you see, it's such a short poem, barely 8 lines, which is basically two stanzas of 4 lines. And whenever there is a stanza of 4 lines, it's known as a quatrain. And Robert Frost in this poem has written the entire poem in two quatrains, and both have a continuing rhyming scheme. If we see the words crow, snow, me, and tree, we get the rhyming scheme AB, AB. Similarly, when we see heart, part, mood, and root, we get the rhyming scheme CD, CD. And there is a reason that Robert Frost has intentionally and deliberately made this poem into two stanzas, two quatrains, and I'll tell you why. So he starts the poem with the statement, the way a crow. Now you see there are three things in this poem. First is a crow, second is a hemlock tree, and third is dust of snow. Now, crow, as we all know, first of all, it's black in color, it's dark in color. And secondly, crow feeds on flesh. And, crow is seen as a symbol of, it's considered inauspicious or bad omen, or like it's considered unlucky. And even hearing the voice of the crow or, barely just looking at the crow is considered not to be a good sign, especially at the beginning of your day. Then hemlock tree is a tree which is considered poisonous. Again, it represents some negativity and it represents some dark part, And Robert Frost has used both these things, which are considered bad omen or inauspicious, in his poetry and has contrasted them with the dust of snow. Now, snow is white in color. White, as we know, it's a symbol of purity, it's a symbol of beauty, it's a symbol of peace and calm. So he is presented two very contrasting things at the same time. On one part, we have crow and hemlock tree, which are the symbols of negativity. On the other hand, we have dust of snow, which is considered to be a thing of beauty. It's something that, provides you peace amidst the chaos. So he says, so what happens here is, let's understand the setting as well. It's a snowy landscape. Uh, all around there is just snow, and Robert Frost just happens to pass by a tree, which is a hemlock tree. And on the branch of the hemlock tree is a crow. And he says that, and for some reason, he was just upset this day, and for reasons unknown. And he says that as I passed down from near that tree, the way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. So this crow just shook itself, and the dust of snow which was present on the body of the crow simply falls on Robert Frost, has given my heart a change of mood. And this very trivial incident, this small incident of the falling of dust of snow over him, gave him a change of heart. So he basically suddenly, prior to this, he was upset and he was just walking sad and gloomy in despair and passing by. And this petty incident just uplifted his mood. It made him feel better. It's not like his mood completely changed, but he felt better and saved some part of a day I had rued. So earlier he had rued this day. R-U-E-D, rued means regretted. he was regretting this day, he was cursing this day. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, sometimes it just happens that everything goes wrong and you are just extremely upset and you feel like this day is cursed and it's such a bad day, it's a bad luck. So he says when I walked and when this snow fell on me, dust of snow, suddenly it saved some part of my day and it kind of gave me upliftment, a feeling of refreshment or rejuvenation. So you see, crow here is a symbol of bad luck, or you can say negativity. And the speaker says that, it kind of this same thing, which is supposed to be a bad omen, brought positivity in his life, although temporary, but it did make him happy. And he says that because of this, his heart, his emotions, his feelings changed, and there was this shift in his mood from gloomy to happiness, or you can say from sorrow to some kind of joy, even though temporary. And at least, if not the entire, but it saved some part of his day, right? And as I mentioned that, Robert Frost has divided this poem into two quatrains. Now, this break in the stanza is intentional because the first stanza talks about negativity, where crow and hemlock tree are used, and it talks about the sad part of his day. But the very next stanza talks about positivity. It's optimistic. The tone shifts because now he says that these basic elements, these inauspicious elements, these supposedly inauspicious elements saved my day. Now let's discuss some literary devices used in the poem. Although it's a very small poem, yet there are literary devices. The very first being alliteration. If we look at the first line of the second stanza, has given my heart. So there is a repetition of H sound, which is in has and heart, and this is an example of alliteration. Similarly, the third line of the second stanza, and saved some part. Saved and some begin with the same sound of S. So this is also an example of alliteration. This entire poem contains metaphors. For example, crow. Crow is a metaphor for negativity, for bad omen, for sorrow. Similarly, hemlock tree is also a metaphor for similar things, for isolation, for desolation, or for solitude. Basically, it stands alone, it's poisonous, and people generally do not like to associate themselves with this tree. Nobody likes being near this tree. And the dust of snow, although it literally was dust of snow, but Robert Frost considers it to be a symbol of positivity, to be that small moment of happiness that can uplift somebody's mood. Then the last line of a day I had rued, if you see the sound of the consonant D is very prominent here, although it's not in the beginning of the words, therefore it is not an example of alliteration. But since the sound of D is prominent here, it is an example of consonants. And similarly, if we look at the second line, shook down on me, here you see the sound of the vowel O is quite stressed in this line, shook down on, and therefore this is an example of assonance. Now, this poem also contains an irony. You see that how he was so upset about something that he was regretting the day altogether. And suddenly, something so simple, such as the falling of dust of snow over him, brought a change in his mood. So, this is the irony that sometimes petty, simple events, like seemingly very simple events, can actually uplift your mood and transform it to something better. And the best part about this poem, this is my personal favorite, which I like about Robert Frost is, as you must have read the poem Road Not Taken in class ninth as well. And you'll read This Dust of Snow. Also, there's second poem, Fire and Ice, that is also written by Robert Frost. Now, one thing I really like about his style is that his poems are simple. No, no high vocabulary, those simple words, and easy to understand. The language is clear and quite straightforward, yet the imagery is beautiful. When you read this poem, it's very easy for us to imagine that there's a snowy landscape and a man is walking by, there's a hemlock tree, a crow is sitting on the branches, and it shakes so the dust of snow falls. So you see how clear and vivid imagery Robert Frost has painted here, that we are able to actually have this visual experience without actually being there. Now, let us discuss some themes of this poem. See, although it's a one thing you need to understand it, and also although it's a very small poem, but from your examination point of view, this is really important. It's small, but it definitely conveys a deeper meaning, and we'll understand those through the themes of this poem. The very first thing you see that crow, hemlock tree, and dust of snow. All of these things are elements of nature. So definitely one of the very first things is the influence of nature on our life. You see, sometimes it happens that you're upset or you're just simply feeling mentally blocked or not just in general if you feel low. But a 5 minutes walk outside in the nature, when you see the greeneries, when you see the sky, it suddenly makes you feel at least a couple of times better. So that's what Robert Frost says here, that how a simple, ordinary, and very insignificant event deeply, profoundly impacts his emotions and perspective. So these elements like snow, crow, hemlock tree, they become like catalysts for change and they bring in him a spirit of renewal. Then the second thing that we talk about is renewal itself, redemption and renewal. Robert Frost says that sometimes unexpectedly, some petty moments can bring a shift in your mood, can lift your spirits, and they can simply offer you a new perspective in your life, a new outlook in your life, even when you're surrounded with negativity, or even when you're surrounded with some kind of sorrow or despair. Then, one very important theme to note here is the contrast, the duality that he's highlighted. You see, life is not a series of straightforward events. If you have highs, you are definitely bound to have lows. If there is day, then there's also the night follows. So in this poem, you see there are two very different kind of things used. First, he's used the image of crow and hemlock tree. The crow is black in color, and even the hemlock tree is darker. It goes towards the negative side. And snow is extremely opposite. It's completely white, it's pure, it's serene, it's beautiful. So Robert Frost, what he's trying to highlight here is that life is a mixture of both kinds of things. If there is negativity, there is also positivity. And both of these things are transient, these are temporary, nothing is permanent. So there's a sense of contrast between dark and this gloomy, sad imagery of crow and hemlock tree, and on the other hand, there is snow, which is light and which is refreshing, and it makes you feel better. And this shows the dualities in life. Like if there is sorrow, there's also joy. If there is darkness, then there is also light after it. So he gives us a message of hope as well, that we must remain optimistic and hopeful. There might be certain problems today, but these won't last forever. Then, a very important theme here is appreciation of simple pleasures, of small pleasures. He says that, we must keep our heart open and we must learn to accept any kind of, any small movements that come in our life. And it's very important to be open to them because we cannot always wait for grand events to happen to make us happy. We must learn to appreciate petty moments as well. Only then we can truly navigate through the hardships of life. And as I mentioned in the contrast and duality point, the transient nature of emotion. The word transient means temporary. So, what Robert Frost is trying to say is that your emotions, your feelings, the way, your perspective, all of these are temporary. As you grow, as you gain different kinds of experiences, your feelings change, your emotions change. The way you feel right now, the way you look at life right now may not be the same over a few years. So you see how he was walking all gloomy and sad and in solitude, and suddenly this petty incident changed his mood. So he shows our emotions are so fragile that they can simply be changed at any point of time with any kind of catalyst of nature. So what he says is emotions are subject to change. While he encountered dust of snow, suddenly his mood shifts from despondency means sadness, and suddenly he becomes hopeful, he gets uplifted, he feels renewed or rejuvenated. So basically, Robert Frost is giving us a reminder here that the emotional landscape of life, which your emotions, the way you feel, it's ever changing, it's not permanent. You may be feeling quite happy and on cloud nine today, but tomorrow there might be moments of sadness, and similarly, you might be extremely hurt or sad or heartbroken due to something, but tomorrow will be a better day, and we must not stop hope. And then one last message that he gives us, which is also the theme of this story, is acceptance of imperfections. You see, life is not perfect. Nobody is, not me, not you. So Robert Frost is trying to teach us by accepting these little moments, we must learn that there are certain moments in life which are not perfect, and it is fine. It's completely okay. We must learn. to accept these imperfections. Only then we can truly move on and be happy, and we can actually feel relief, and redemption is possible. So, what message he's trying to give here is that even in the darkest of time, even in the lowest of your time, the beauty and the simplicity of nature are simply, they offer you peace, they offer you tranquility, they offer you calm amidst chaos. And we must learn to be open to receive these little joys, unexpected as and when they come, and we need to change our perspective with time. And lastly, we talk of symbolism in the poem. So there are three things, as I mentioned earlier: crow, hemlock tree, and dust of snow. The crow is a symbol of negativity, it's a symbol of sorrow or bad omen, or you can also use the word inauspicious. It's considered unlucky or somewhat of a burden. Then second is the hemlock tree. The hemlock tree kind of signifies the weight of the world, the heaviness, the bondage, and the feeling of dejection, being extremely upset and extremely isolated and living in solitude. Because as I said that it's a poisonous tree, nobody really likes to associate with it. And in contrast, the dust of snows simply is a symbol of joy, of hope, of beauty, of serenity. So I hope you like the video, and comment for any sort of feedback. If you like the video, just give it a thumbs up. See you in the next video. Bye bye.